Good morning. I am Shannon Miller with the Miller Elder Law Firm, and I am here with our senior living panel today. We're excited to have some experts from across Gainesville and greater Gainesville area to talk a little bit about some senior living issues. This is a question and answer. We want to make sure if you guys have questions that come up, you go ahead and put your questions in the chat. I'm going to have May, who is our tech support, provide in the chat some information, contact information for our experts. And we will also flash up our experts' information at the end. So, feel free to take a screenshot or get your phone out and take a picture if there's anything that anybody on here who you'd like to have more information from. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a short introduction. I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to kind of talk a little bit about what they do. I will start. My name is Shannon Miller. I'm a board certified elder law attorney, and we having started to engage in a practice called life care planning, where we incorporate estate planning, exploitation protection, long-term care planning, and healthcare advocacy, meaning we have an elder care coordinator on our staff to help people go through the process of aging with all the safety nets in place. So that is our role. I'm going to start with you, Norma, to talk a little bit about what you do. Norma Berger.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Norma Berger. I'm an aging life care manager, also known as a geriatric care manager. And we do the piece that Shannon refers to as healthcare advocacy. We also assist with other types of coordinating services, communication with both providers, family liaison. We do a whole host of things that help our clients who are seniors either age in place or sometimes move to where they'll be safe and have good well-being.
Thank you, Norma. We also have Betsy Pepine with us today. Betsy, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I'm Betsy Pepine. I'm the broker owner of Pepine Realty. I became interested in the senior component of real estate years ago because I was so blessed to have been raised next door to my grandparents and have always had a passion for seniors. So we have agents in our practice that have the senior specialist designation, and we really try to cater to that group of people. About a third of our clients are seniors trying to relocate or downsize because of their age in life.
That's lovely. And I love that. I love that you guys are dialing into this population of people because it is very specialized when we're talking about downsizing and aging in place and how to help people understand what they might want to look for when they're looking for a house to downsize into. So we appreciate your expertise in joining us today on the panel, and you too, Norma. Okay, Leisl, tell us a little bit about what you do.
I am a certified senior move manager through the National Association of Senior Move Managers, which is a mouthful. I also got into this after having cared for family members who were in the midst of transition and needed help. So basically what I do is, if you think about what a wedding planner does for weddings, that's what I do for senior citizens who are downsizing in order to age in place, or if they're moving to a retirement community or assisted living or memory care.
And I mean, you can also help people just kind of reducing the amount of stuff that they have, right?
That's right. That's right. We do downsizing projects only quite often. We're engaged with 2 of them right now. And so, yes, so sometimes there are some concerns that people would like to stay in their homes, but they just need to alter their spaces in order to make that happen. So we're kind of the boots on the ground helping them do that. Yes.
And I've seen you in action, and you do amazing work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Michele, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, I'm a certified financial planner and the resident director of Merrill Lynch. I've been here for 30 years. My partner and I, our practice really involves individuals and specifically, in many cases, multi-generational families. So we really help be the link between the external advisor, the other advisors, the Betsy's, and be the resource that links everybody together. And a lot of it is about financial and investment and cybersecurity and just protecting yourself. And some of it is just relationships within the family, having the tough conversations.
And we're going to talk more to you about the pitfalls that, some of the things that you see, which we need to be aware of, because until, it happens, you may not be thinking that it could happen to you. So thank you for being with us as well. All right, so let's get started. We are going to have just a few questions, and basically the questions that I'm going to be asking our panel will be targeted to their specific expertise, but I also will invite the other panelists to chime in, because these are topics that cross all of our radars, depending on which hat we have on that day. Obviously, seniors are multifaceted. They have very different issues that arise at different times, and a lot of times we have to approach these, our clients are with different strategies for how to get them through an issue as it arises. And a lot of times we find our people in crisis mode. They've just learned about a diagnosis. Maybe they've had been exploited. Maybe they've started to realize that they can no longer make it up the stairs without stopping halfway. So like these things are coming up, and they're trying to figure out, can I afford long-term care? Can I afford, should I be, making a claim on my long-term care insurance, or do I have enough income to support myself in a different living situation? Can I afford caregivers to come into the home? All these things are questions that people have that they maybe aren't thinking about until we get to that crisis moment. So I want to talk to you first, Norma, being our, geriatric management specialist. Tell us a little bit about when it is time for people to start paying attention and taking action.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. That's a very good question. I would say, you mentioned getting to that crisis situation and not realizing that there might be an issue until there's a crisis. And that definitely is the more common situation that we see. To be more proactive, notice changes, right, with your parents or your loved ones. Memory issues, driving issues. My dad, who's still pretty young, recently had a little fender bender, and I'm paying attention to that. Oh, he's always been an excellent driver, and now he's, starting to maybe have some issues driving. Little things like that, noticing, if they've always been meticulous about the way their house is, that it's maybe a little messy. They're not physically capable of doing the things that they were doing before. Memory lapses, forgetting appointments, forgetting to pay a bill. Personality changes sometimes, especially if someone has the early stages of dementia. Not just forgetfulness, but maybe lapses in judgment, trusting someone that they shouldn't, starting to see the signs of that. Maybe being, sometimes people kind of try to hide those things too that are happening. So maybe acting a little secretive or seeming like there's something going on, but you can't quite figure out what. Those are signs to look for sure.
And Norma, the reason that people are secretive, and I can testify to this, yes, right? It's often because why?
Well, they're embarrassed. I mean, if you start to have lapses in judgment and then you realize it, because a lot of our seniors, they might be showing some signs of dementia, but they're still the same person that they were. And that's a, scary thing to admit.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is there's some fear there. I think that, like there's a lot of people have this fear.
What's going to happen next?
Right. Am I going to be taken out of my home and put into a facility by my family? And this is kind of an underlying theme, unfortunately. This idea that, families can kind of remove us from our homes and put us somewhere like in a warehouse where the doors are locked and we're going to be trapped there, never able to come back and see our pets or have a full life. But Norma, is that really how this works?
No, I mean, I'm not going to say that never happens. Of course, we all know how our nursing facilities are. But I would suggest for anyone who is looking down the road for themselves or their families, the best thing to do to protect what you want to have happen for you or your family is to be proactive and plan and communicate about what your wishes are. Do you want to stay in your home as long as you can, or are you ready to give it up? I'm ready to go to assisted living, whatever. Who do you want handling your finances? Who do you trust to, make sure that those bills get paid? Who do you want talking to the doctor on your behalf? All of those things are things that families should be communicating about earlier rather than later. As a care manager, we get involved at every step of the way, but it's a lot easier to involve outside help earlier and being proactive than in that crisis situation where we're all, scrambling to figure out where documents are and who does what and all of those things. So
Yeah, Michele, I see you shaking your head, and this is right in your wheelhouse, right? Because when we're talking about assisted living, or we're talking about even independent living, or we're talking about nursing home level of care, I mean, the expense of those things can be quite dramatic, right? And if we don't have a long-term care policy, or we do have one, but it doesn't cover independent living, or it doesn't cover assisted living, you need to be familiar with your policy and see what does it cover, what does it not cover. I can't tell you the number of times I have clients come in and they have a policy that covers even unlicensed home care, and they haven't been using that policy because they thought it only covered nursing home care. So give us some feedback from your perspective. What does a good financial plan look like when we're starting to age into this time where we might need more help?
Sure. Definitely, as Norma said, the pre-planning part, the more you can proactively do before other people start making those decisions for you, is better. And having those, tough conversations and communication with your family, having, policies reviewed on a regular basis with your, advisor or financial planner, whoever that is. Yeah, so many things like that definitely are on a checklist.
That's great. And I mean, I know one of the things that we recommend to our clients is having an asset list that gets updated every year. If you have a trust-based plan, make sure everything is funded into your trust. Make sure you have a list of all your important contacts. Who's your CPA? Who's your financial advisor? Who's your attorney? All those things should be updated on an annual basis to make sure that, your helpers, and that your helpers know who they are, know what to do when the event happens where they get the call and you're in the hospital and unresponsive. I mean, because that can happen. Yeah. But that long range plan about figuring out the financial side of things can be very helpful. And then, on the other side, and I know we don't have any real Medicaid experts on here today, but long-term care planning, I mean, the $13,000 to $16,000 a month, if you don't have long-term care insurance, can, believe it or not, you may have a set of spouses, and one spouse may be ill and the other may be well. That sixth spouse, we may be able to get qualified for Medicaid. And I'm not going to go off the rails here because we've got more to talk about, but that is something to have someone take a look at to see where qualification would rest for you guys. And that can be a simple review. Betsy, I want to turn to you now and your expertise on this idea of aging in place. And we have clients with 3-story homes, and sometimes that just is not going to work if we have somebody who's struggling getting up and down the stairs, or maybe you do a stair lift. I mean, how do you help that client that's coming in with this they're not sure whether they can age in place, or they need to downsize, or maybe they even need to sell their homes? What advice do you have on that?
That's a great question. We get that a lot. Hopefully it's in a situation when they're in their 50s and 60s, they're empty nesters. That's very common, and they're starting to think about their next stage of life and making that a aging in place structure. But some people want to just stay in the home that they raised their children in, like the 3-story large home, and they want to figure out how they can age in place. the things that we ask them is, and the things that I think are most important for accessibility are, is there a decent sized bedroom, a true bedroom, not a closet or something that could be a study, but is there a true bedroom and a full bathroom downstairs? Are there elevation changes in the home? And not just stairs going into the garage or on the porch, but like in my parents' house right now, it's becoming a problem where they have just a slight lip on the threshold. And you think that that's nothing, but now that's become a slip hazard for my mother. So she can no longer go into her office just because of a not even an inch high threshold change. So are there elevation changes in the home? Is the flooring a non-slip surface? Now that you can easily change out if it's not, but you should have a non-slip flooring surface. Is there a walk-in shower? Ideally a roll-in shower. If you could roll in a wheelchair, or is there the ability to create that area if you needed to, taking down some walls? And same with the toilet area. Are there enough surfaces to put grab bars or poles? Poles are becoming more common, but you're going to need, normally people as they age are going to need more support, and you're going to need handrails for the bathroom areas. And then it becomes a question of, do they have enough equity in their home to make these repairs for aging in place? Maybe they could do a reverse mortgage. Most seniors have a lot of equity in their home. They could do a reverse mortgage and pay for some of these renovations. But in addition to just if the house could work, even if the house doesn't work, we're seeing a lot, especially in our area with the passage of the ADUs, the ancillary dwelling units. You could put an ancillary dwelling unit on your property, and that might be able to accommodate the person who is getting older. Tiny homes are becoming more common, of putting those in the backyard. We're seeing other styles of housing as well. Maybe you downsize into a condo, not going right into independent or assisted living, but maybe you downsize into a condo. Maybe that would work for you. So there's a variety of things that we look at. And the final thing I would think is, well, two important things is, one, like you had mentioned, Shannon, is can the person afford to age in place indefinitely? Because it's very expensive. We're pricing it for my mother, and it's anywhere from, I don't know, I would say the low end is 15,000 all the way up to, depending on how much care she's going to need, it could be 25,000 a month. And how long is that sustainable? And also proximity to your children. Fortunately, my parents live across Gainesville. I mean, I'm only 15 minutes away, but if at the end of the day, your children are, 1,000 miles away, is this really where you want to age in place, or do you want to move closer to your family? So those are the kinds of things that we talk to our customers about when they come to us with these issues.
Yeah. And I mean, this idea of aging in place, I can just tell you from my experience, like everybody wants to age in place. They all want to die in their sleep, right? They're just gonna have a heart attack in their sleep and die. And honestly, the number one reason that we see people move into nursing homes is incontinence.
Mhm.
And so, kind of thinking about the strength of our bodies,
Yeah.
and making sure that we stay active and continue moving becomes so essential to maintaining continence.
Mhm.
And the pelvic floor in men and women, we've got to
Mhm.
focus on the pelvic floor, as uncomfortable as it may be to talk about. This is an essential part of staying out of a nursing home. So yeah, and Betsy, on this idea of like, even if you can afford the $25,000 a month for some time period, let's say you have a dementia diagnosis, there's that last year and a half to 2 years is going to be very challenging, because we probably are going to have incontinence, and it's going to be very difficult to get somebody from the bed to the bathroom. Sometimes it just isn't possible because of that difficulty of dead weight. I hate to use that term. Someone who is not able to get up, moving them into a situation and then getting them to the bathroom, or even just keeping them clean. With bed sore issues, sometimes it's just not doable to have someone at home. And it's an important fact that I know a lot of people don't want to hear about, but the reality is, if you reach the age of 70, you have an 80% chance of spending on average 6 months in a nursing home level of care before you die. So, it's a challenge for us to kind of get people to address these things before they happen. And also to have that reality check of like, let's have a plan. Let's try to plan to age in place. Let's try and create the financial, arrangements so that we can do that, with the understanding that plan B over here may be that we have to, in order to keep the family functioning, right? Because we want our caregivers to not also, suffer crisis healthcare events from the stress of caregiving. It's really a hard balance, and these are hard, challenging topics, but yeah, your insight into this is incredible. And honestly, Betsy, with you going through your own stuff with your family and being willing to share that with us, I think that's where the real value of these kinds of webinars really gels. Okay, so let's just say, hypothetically, Leisl, this is on you now. We know this isn't working. We can't stay in this really difficult house situation. And now we've decided, yeah, we've got to go. Here's the thing that my clients will say to me. I can't move from here because of all the stuff that I've collected over my lifetime, traveling, and I'm a professor, and I have collected these artifacts from Russia and, Africa, and, I can't possibly part with my stuff. How do you help our person or family kind of manage that difficult? And sometimes it's paralyzing. I mean, you probably see it more than I do, but I have had clients that I have had conversations with over a year to 2 years just about their stuff. So help us out with that issue.
I do. I do understand exactly what you're talking about. And actually, I'm trying to convince my aunt and uncle right now in Ohio that it's time for them to do it, but they're in the same boat. And I do this for a living. So I promise them that they're in good hands, but still it's paralyzing for them because the thought of changing and the thought of having to undertake a significant project is really a lot for them. But I have 5 quick steps that I just want to touch on very, very briefly. So cut me off at any time.
Please, I'm writing these down. I'm terrible at this stuff, so I'm going to use it for myself.
For recording.
The very first step is one that almost everybody skips, and it is the most important, and it shapes the entire process, and that is setting a goal and really talking about the specific reasons behind their decision to downsize or to move. What is it that they want to accomplish when they downsize or move? And a lot of people have more than one reason or more than one decision behind that. But it's critical to identify those reasons so that they can guide each decision they make along the way. So for instance, you had mentioned mobility concerns, Betsy. So maybe it's mobility concerns. If they want to age in place, then maybe we need to think about reconfiguring their rooms so that mobility is not such a concern anymore. Or, maybe another example is maybe they just want a fresh space so that they can focus on their current hobbies instead of the ones from 40 years ago. So, and maybe they want to entertain more often, or maybe they just want to simplify their life by thinning out belongings. But we have to talk about our goals with someone who knows us well and whose opinions they trust. And if you don't have someone, there's someone like Norma or someone like Betsy who can talk you through your space and whether or not it's suiting your needs at this point. But if you don't set a goal at the start, you can make decisions in haste or in a panic that will steer you away from what you truly need at the end of the day. So if you don't do anything else, just set that goal. So the second step is whether or not you're moving or just downsizing. Step 2 is to make a floor plan. And what you can do this even if you're going to stay in your own home, but start with the obvious items you need. A bed, table, chairs, measure them if you can, just to make sure they're going to fit in your new space or reconfigure in your current space. And as you expand your list of items that you want to keep or move with you, make sure they align with your goals. That's pretty easy. The third step is, if you are moving, interview your movers. Don't just talk to one. There are about 30 movers in Gainesville, and their rates range from 190 an hour to 490 an hour. Each company is different. And these are the people that are going to be handling your most private and sentimental items. So you want to make sure to find the company that's right for you. That's something that we do as move managers. We help people find the right company, but I talk to so many people who just speak to one company and that's it. And they don't realize that there's so much more out there. So the fourth item is, the fourth step is to choose a sorting system that works the best for you. And I'm just going to give you an example. I use a sticker system. Green stickers go with me to the new place. Red stickers stay behind. White stickers are for charity, and other colors can be designated for family members or friends. So when you think about the sorting process, you don't have to think about, oh my goodness, I have to pack up everything in this room, or I have to box it up. Even just starting with the stickers can help you make decisions. And then you can come back a week later into that room and decide, maybe you'll switch some of the stickers around. But engage help from friends and family, and tap into your philanthropic side. Have a get together with all your neighbors on your street, with the caveat that they must take home a plant or a book or whatever item you choose at the end of the gathering. Let your neighborhood elementary school benefit from having all those National Geographic magazines you've been storing. Gainesville has some amazing local charities. Humane Society, Peaceful Paths, Domestic Violence Shelter, Reuse Planet, Repurpose Project, Salvation Army, Family Promise. I mean, the list goes on and on. Or if you'd rather sell your things, there are some terrific, reputable estate sale companies in town who can help you do that as well. But this is a caveat that I really want to include here at the end. So step 5 for me, in my perspective, is once the dust settles from your project, from your downsizing project or your moving project, you really need to refocus your energy on the other area of your life that's going to help you and your loved ones sleep better at night, and that is your estate plan. My dad died at the start of 2020 and left me the most perfect gift that he could have left me. It was a 3-ring binder with every single piece of information and document that I would need to settle his affairs quickly and painlessly. We knew at that time when Dad died that my mother was starting her journey with dementia. But before I could jump in there, after he passed, she changed their entire plan. So where it took me 3 months to settle my dad's affairs, it took me 1.5 years of painful, frustrating, agonizing work to settle my mom's affairs. So I just ask you all, what kind of gift do you want to leave for your family and friends? Do you want to leave the 3-ring binder that does everything for you and makes life so much easier and made me thank him every day for doing that? Or do you want to leave the mess that takes a long time to settle? So
Thanks, Leisl. And just to kind of give a snapshot of what that might look like, really, the 3-ring binder is probably a trust-based plan that avoids probate, what may have happened in the second, and private, obviously, but if we have to probate something, it's going to take a long time. So, that and noticing creditors and dealing with a lot of things that you otherwise wouldn't have to do if you had a trust-based plan. So thank you for sharing all that. That's beautiful. But Michele, it's a perfect segue to you. Tell us, what are the pitfalls? We just heard about one of them, which is not having a good, solid estate plan. But are there some other things that you see in kind of watching your clients walking towards that death event, or walking towards chronic illness, or walking towards dementia or exploitation? And what are some of the things that you see, and how can we avoid those?
Sure. Well, having the biggest key is having that plan in place, or that 3-ring binder is the best thing. And I think, like, no matter how many years, we may have a relationship with a client, I feel like sometimes it's always a discovery meeting. We're finding one more Easter egg, as I call it, so that your kids aren't going through all this. And things like that, people sometimes don't even think of a financial asset or something that would cause an issue. And it could be savings bonds sitting in a safe deposit box.
Oh,
That's one of the
savings
big
bonds.
ones.
Cash them in.
Yeah. Yeah. And even the I bonds too, in some cases, you can actually, even the old bonds, you can send them now into Treasury Direct, and they will book entry them, electronically deposit interest. You can add a beneficiary, a TOD, all kinds of stuff. So that's one of the
And
big
let
ones.
me explain, like, just for people that don't know why that creates such difficulty. Okay, so let's say you did exactly what Leisl's dad did, and you did your trust-based plan, but before dad died, he bought these bonds because they seemed like a great idea, but they're not in his trust. So we would have to probate that, $1,500 worth of bonds. We'd have to open a probate estate. We'd have to notice creditors. We'd have to do all the things that happen in a estate administration. And the costs of that are like $3,500, right? To open a probate. So the cost has now outweighed the benefit. And what do you do in those cases? Well, I tell the clients, you can, basically throw those bonds away, or we can probate them because you want to get the $1,500, but you're now in the hole for $2,000. So yes, savings bonds. So many times, it's so many times that I have to tell a client it's just not worth it. So I'm sorry to interrupt, Michele. But
Oh no, that's great. And there's still there's a lot of folks out there that have what we call old drip plans, or stocks held at the agent. And all you really see on the checking account is some deposit of a dividend from, it could say DuPont on it. And, you don't know where that's coming from, Well, it's at the agent. Well, then the agent says, well, there's a certificate lying somewhere. Do you know where it is? No, nobody knows where their certificate is. So now we have to file for a loss certificate under probate. And that pops up a lot too when somebody has, and sometimes it's 20 shares of something. So it's a very small amount that causes a big headache. So there's all these kinds of gold bars. I'll go out to lunch with somebody and they'll say, oh, by the way, I, did a little bit of a capital contribution to that restaurant. And that's it. You what? Okay, let's put that in the plan and make sure we know how that is. Because K-1 forms, the tax return is sometimes, I tell our clients, show me your tax return, because sometimes we see more stuff on there that wasn't in the original plan too. And then on the, the cyber electronic side, the biggest risk we see today mostly is with a local standpoint, it's people. They busted people recently stealing mail. So people will steal your mail. They know you only have a landline. You're writing 100 checks a month for all these different bills. You're going to get your identity stolen. It happens. We've had 2 in the last year, both of them the same exact situation. And so try to educate and have people at least become somewhat cyber savvy, know what they're doing, set up electronic debits. The one caution I always say with electronic debits, especially if you have 5 different checking accounts with different institutions, we'll see the kids come in and they'll start closing and consolidating accounts from everywhere. And the one account had the annual life insurance premium coming out of it. And so now it's on delay. So when you have life insurance and or long-term care, there's usually an authorization that says, if I miss a premium, call this person or contact this person so that they know. Always keep that up to date. And also with contacts, we have something called, a lot of institutions now have something called a trusted contact person. It gives no authority on their accounts. It's not a power of attorney. It's if I have somebody that I feel is being scammed or, and it might be a caregiver or a family member even, who is that person that I could say, hey, I think we need to call somebody, you know, or, you know, and just make that move. And oftentimes it is a family member or a caregiver, unfortunately. So we have to have some independent kind of, you know, other set of eyes that can say, yeah, we really need to, you know, move in on this. So having that trusted contact person. If you're going to age in place, I would say get a little bit savvy on things like Instacart and Uber and Lyft early, because giving up your keys, that's one thing. I see 90-year-olds and they do not want to give up their keys for any reason. And they are scared to death to get in a Lyft or an Uber. My mom lives in Philly. You know, she Ubers and Lyfts everywhere. You know,
Hey.
she uses Instacart. She orders, you know, everything. So the more that they can get, proficient in those things. I actually, with my mom specifically, she had back surgery a couple years ago and she fell going to the bathroom. She called me on the Alexa because she couldn't get to her phone. I mean, you know, she was
Excellent.
out of it. And I get like this emergency call on my Alexa device from her. And then I turned around and called 911 and everything else. So, you know, I have even with my grandchildren in the Alexa, if they give you permission with family members, they have something, if you have that show called Drop In, and I could actually drop in on my granddaughter and see what she's doing and stuff like that. So there's some neat features that can help you protect your family and communicate as well.
There are a
Let
lot
me
of
ask-
technological safeguards now that are coming out, you know, from where personal emergency response systems used to just be a button. Now you can have sensors on the walls to detect falls, a lot of different medication management systems. So for people who maybe can't afford, you know, a caregiver 24 hours a day to stay and age in place, there are a lot of other safeguards that can be added so that their caregivers who might be far away, like if they have kids that live elsewhere, they can kind of monitor things that way. Care managers, you know, when we first get involved, we do a comprehensive assessment we look at the home itself as well as who's around, who are the supports, where are family members, and you know, who are those trusted individuals and who are those not trusted individuals sometimes, like Michele was saying. And so when we kind of get that big picture, that's when we notice, oh, you need to talk to your financial planner, you need an elder law attorney, you need to put everything together to make those plans and contingency plans. And I just wanted to say, Shannon, you were talking about pelvic floor strength and everything.
Yes.
You're never too young to start taking care of your body. And you know, I think that a lot of even us as professionals, we miss that piece when we're talking to families about how to help, you know, their loved ones age in place. Getting on a physical activity journey is the best advice to give almost anyone.
And Norma, can I just mention too, I had a lot of people call me from different states. You know, their children are different states, their parents live here. They know that they can't come and help, but they need to find someone in their parents' area. We have a national organization for that. I know you do too.
Yes.
Do you want to maybe plug that a little bit so that
so depending on where and care managers are everywhere, and we do have a national organization that's called the Aging Life Care Association, or ALCA for short, and they have on their website a Find an Aging Life Care Manager button where you just put in the zip code or the address or whatever, and it'll come up with a list of members. So people, and to be a member of ALCA, you have to, you know, meet certain criteria as a care manager. So that is one way to find someone no matter where you live. In fact, I just referred someone in Canada to to a care manager in Toronto. So yeah.
Can I hit on Michele really quick before we move off of the financial side? And this is something that's been I've been seeing more in my practice, Bitcoin. And planning for passing Bitcoin and the importance of that. Like, and also the latest about Bitcoin scams. And we just had a client who was literally scammed out of $100,000 recently in a Bitcoin scam like that. Relatively young. And it's like the blink of an eye and $100,000 is gone. So, you know, how prevalent is that? Are you seeing that, Michele? And then as far as the probate, can you fund Bitcoin into your trust? I'm sure you can, but are people doing that? No.
So, first of all, Merrill doesn't engage in any Bitcoin investments or anything like that, for so many reasons. It's just not a regulated investment and under so many different ways. I had a personal friend whose husband passed, and he had a Coinbase account on his phone, and, you know, the only way she could actually get in it was because she had his phone and his password, and that's the only way she could operate through it. She at least was able, she went in there and liquidated it right away and put it to cash, but then trying to get that asset or get that cash took about a year and a probate because it was just in his name on his phone. So what they allow now through some of those apps, I'm not 100% aware whether they would let, you know, it go in a trust. So I would just say be very mindful if whenever you're opening or investing in any kind of external thing like that, because I have clients that will invest money in like storage units and stuff like that where they're just given, and it's just like, please remember to title it in your trust. Please remember to title it. That's the key. You know, when opening investment accounts, either have a, you know, whether it's a joint, a beneficiary like a TOD or a trust, get something on there. I mean, I hammer clients about it all the time.
Yeah. And I would kind of circle back to just briefly just reminding people that your information is on the dark web. And, you know, the more you engage people on the phone, the more valuable your information becomes and the more targeted you are. And when you fall victim to a scam, that's reported on the dark web and your information becomes more valuable. So, you know, exploitation is real. Scams, you know, the average number of times a person is scammed is 7, and usually it's because all their money's gone or there's guardianship that's established. Because when you have an exploitable brain, it doesn't stop after the first scam. You continue to not be able to assess the risk, and you continue to not have intuition between what is a truth and a lie. So I know this for another day. We've done lots of webinars on that. You guys can check the library, find out more about that. The one other thing that I did want to hit on is the smart technology side. There's so much good smart technology out there right now to age in place. Yes, Norma hit on a bunch of them, but there are things that actually can send an alert out. There's different apps that send an alert out if you didn't get out of bed, if you didn't open the refrigerator today, if you didn't, and actually there's apps now that if you are diabetic, it can actually test your urine and send the results back. There's also face recognition technology to tell when your blood pressure is high. Like there's so much new technology today that can allow people to age in place without having to have a caregiver come in and stay in your house 12 hours a day. There's lots of other monitoring, non-invasive, keep your privacy a little bit more, even though there might be a camera that's set up in your kitchen or outside your bedroom. These are things that can help us to make sure that you're okay. But at the same time, you know, families, you know, feel better knowing that there's something that will tell us if you've fallen and you can't get up. Okay. All right. What else? Betsy, did you have anything to add to any of this? I was just kind of looking at you and I was like, I bet she has some good insight.
Yeah, I can relate to a lot of it, just like I said, what I'm going through with my folks, and I've written down several notes about making sure their investment stuff is in, and they have a trust, but I'm not sure if every asset they have is in the trust, so I have to make sure of that. But no, I don't have anything else to add. We do have a question in the Q&A. Did you see that come through?
Yeah, it says, how to find reputable first level help for aging in place. For example, help with heavy yard work, help with household deep cleaning. Yeah, that's an excellent question, Beverly.
I honestly use I've been using it for my parents, you know, just referrals from friends and stuff, but also whatever city you're in, the Facebook group Word of Mouth. So Gainesville Word of Mouth or Ocala Word of Mouth has excellent recommendations, and you can see who gets recommended more frequently than others and check them out. There's also, I think, care.com that, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. We have used that. There's TaskRabbit, which is an app which you hire people to do your tasks for you. Those are the ones that I personally have used for my folks.
As a care manager, I assist families like countless times with coordinating household repairs and things like that. So I have relationships with various companies, locally that provide those services. So I usually will recommend one or two. We'll see who's available, depending on what it is.
Yeah, and I would say that kind of referral is always going to land better. I mean, most of the time it's going to land better if you know, like Betsy, if you have somebody who's great and you love them, then referring that person, because here's what can happen, and I've seen this, unfortunately. You may reach out for that yard worker and they may not know how to manage your potential disability. If you can't see that well or you can't hear that well, and they maybe aren't sensitive to that, then sometimes a senior can struggle with communication. Or like, please don't come really early in the morning. I'm not at work. I may go to bed a little earlier and I may wake up a little later because I realize as I'm aging that sleep is the most important thing. So yeah, it's a challenge. And I would say connecting from referral based, but word of mouth is great because you do get referrals from people. If you say I'm a senior and I need senior, senior people who work with seniors before, that might be helpful as well. Okay, I don't see, a couple more questions came in. I know we're running close. We're running really close to time. Which long-term savings account should be preserved the longest? For example, is it better to withdraw from retirement first or non-retirement first if liquid assets are needed? And I'm going to hit on this one, Michele, after you do, but.
Yeah, I for the most part, it depends on the situation. If you have, many times with the new rules on retirement assets, if you have a child or whoever your beneficiary is, the next generation in a high tax bracket, and you are in maybe a lower tax bracket and have a whole lot of out-of-pocket healthcare expense, like assisted living or something, then you should probably try to take out of the retirement accounts as long as it doesn't throw you in another tax bracket. So
with this cautionary tale, okay, so in Florida, IRAs are exempt from Medicaid qualification. So what that means is as long as you're only taking out required minimum distributions, then that asset would not be considered with regard to Medicaid qualification. So let's just say you had $300,000 in an IRA and you get sick and you have dementia and you're about to spend the next 2 years in a long-term care facility. We can move all the assets into the well spouse's name. That IRA, as long as you've only taken required minimum distributions, is an exempt asset. If you've only done required minimum distributions, it's an exempt asset. So you've been able to preserve that $300,000 that's in there. I mean, granted, you're still going to have to take out those required minimum distributions every year. We're going to tell you to take them out on a monthly basis. That'll be counted as income for Medicaid. And I can't go into too many more details or everyone's head is going to explode. But yes, it's something to talk to professionals about. When you're deciding which assets to hit, retirement versus non-retirement, talk to Michele, your financial advisor is going to give you a lot of good tips on that. But don't forget to talk to your elder law attorney too, because what you don't want to do is jeopardize that $2 million that you have in an IRA because you took $5,000 in 2022. Now we have to qualify for Medicaid, and guess what? They're going to make you liquidate the entire $2 million because you took out $5,000. So
definitely on a situation basis. Yeah,
for sure. Okay, you guys, we are out of time. May, can you flash up our contact information? And I know we put it in the chat, but if you guys want to whip out your phones and take a picture of the panelists, and maybe you can largen that up a little bit, May, just because, it's important if you already have kind of a feeling for some of these professionals that you're seeing on here. These may be really good people to help you in the future with things that come up. with your senior living issues. Okay, so we're wrapping up. Any last comments from anybody about anything? This has been profoundly beneficial. I think I'm very impressed with this panel. You guys are awesome. Please come back. Let's do this a couple times.
Well, just hats off to you, Shannon, for shining a light on this really important subject that I think a lot of people put off.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks for having
Thank you,
us. Shannon.
Shannon.
Yes,
Yes, thank you.
absolutely. Okay, upcoming May. I hate to put you on the spot, but what's our next webinar? And then we will go ahead and sign off.
We have 2 webinars this upcoming June. One is how different types of Medicaid will work for you. And the other is how smart tech can help you age in place.
There you go.
That's good.
I'll be publishing this in the webinar newsletter for the dates and time as well as for the registration. So keep an eye out for that email.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Hope everyone has a great week and a good weekend on the horizon.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank
Shannon.
you.
bye.